Alright, so problem 27 here, we have a scatter plot of SAT verbal scores versus math scores. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is describe the relationship. So if we look at this, let's go ahead and do that. So we need to talk about strength, direction, form, and outliers, right? So we have a linear, moderate, positive relationship let me zoom that out for you. So you have a moderate, linear, positive relationship between SAT verbal and SAT math scores. Now, as far as an outlier goes, let's take a look at this. Let's see what we got here. Alright, so there is one outlier, I think. It's this guy right here. Okay, that person got like a 500 verbal and got like an 800 in math. So, I'm going to list that down as my outlier. Okay, there is one outlier. .500 verbal and 800 math. So I think we just answered B, but I answered an A because we did form, strength, direction, and outliers. So B is this guy right here. That's that guy that got the 500, 800. C. Next question says R equals 0.685. So what does that tell you? It tells you that we have a strong, and not strong, moderate, positive, linear relationship between SAT math and SAT verbal. Also, if we square 0.685, we get R squared. And that comes out to 0.469, so about 0.47. So, 47% of variation in SAT math is explained by a linear relationship with SAT verbal. Okay, so that takes care of R. So now in D, they tell us that the verbal math scores, which is our X variable here, was 596.3, and the standard deviation of the verbal was 99.5, and then the average math is 612.2, and a standard deviation of 96.1. So now we got to write the equation of the line. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to use this. So we're going to do R, we already know, is 0.685. The standard deviation of Y, okay, or the math scores, is 96.1 over 99.5, and that comes out to I'm just going to put it down here, 0.661593. So that's B sub 1, so we got the slope. Okay, and then we know that Y predicted equals b sub 0 plus b sub 1x. So we know that the mean point is 612.2 and 596.3. So I'm going to put the 612.2 in. B sub 1 is 0.661593. The x is 596.3. Okay. So if you do this out, you're going to get b sub 0 is about 217.692. Okay. So that means that predicted math is 217.692 plus 0.661593 verbal. Okay? And then in question E, interpret the slope of the line. Okay, well the slope is 0.661593. Okay, so again, we're comparing verbal to math, and that means every time verbal goes over 1, math will go up by 0.661593. So math, actually let's write it like this: when verbal increases by 1, the model predicts math will increase by about 0.661593 points. This should be 1 point. Okay, so when the verbal scores increase by 1 point, the math scores will increase by approximately 0.66 points. Okay. And then F, we got to put the 500 in. So predicted math is going to equal 217.692 plus 0.662 times 500, and that comes out to about 548.692. So the answer is the model predicts math will be about 549 points when verbal is 500. Okay. And then G, it says every year some student scores a perfect 1600. What would the residual be? Okay, well, if we put 800 in, that means the person got a perfect score on the verbal, because we're going to use the verbal to predict math. So what did they wind up with? Well, they got a 747.292. Residual equals actual y minus predicted y. Okay, so the actual y was 800. They actually got an 800, but the model predicts 747.292. And if you subtract those, you get about 52.708 points. So it would be a positive residual. What does that mean? It means that the person scored higher than predicted. They did better than expected. That's a good thing.